Having conquered Sydney's music scene, AC/DC relocated to Melbourne and retooled the group's lineup. Bon Scott's voice had raised the band to another level, but there was room for improvement.
The first High Voltage album had been released, but they were still looking to sort of secure the permanent band members.
In early 1975, drummer Phil Rudd joined the band and the mayhem.
We were living in this house for 6 months. Still the best days of our life. There was more action going on there than ever since. We drank like it was no tomorrow. We woke up and drank again, and we just continued on like that for a long time.
The party continued in the spring of 1975, when AC/DC's cover of Baby Please Don't Go went top 10 and became their first nationwide hit.
Baby, don't go! Baby, don't go!
That April, the band made a notorious appearance on Australian television as Bon gave new meaning to the phrase, dress for success.
I'll never forget it. On Countdown, Bon dressed in drag, you know? I mean, that was unheard of back then.
Bon's drag act served to further AC/DC's raucous reputation, and by the summer of 1975, they had a gold record and a growing fan base in Australia.
AC/DC had a young audience, male and female, adoring this band.
But as AC/DC's second album went to number 2 in Australia, the band had no intention of remaining local heroes. In early 1976, they scored a deal with Atlantic Records to release their music internationally. That spring, AC/DC boarded a plane to London, looking to conquer the world.
I think it was inevitable that AC/DC were going to outgrow Australia. There was a whole world waiting for them.
Their fast and furious style fitted in with London's flourishing punk scene, and soon AC/DC were well known on the London circuit. They headed across Britain, their reputations as the rude and rowdy boys from Australia preceding them.
I think they thought I was some sort of male stripper at some point. I think I played one night in Marquee nude. I didn't know that, what, they arrest people for that? I didn't know.
AC/DC came to be considered not so much a band as a band of outlaws. On stage, they did everything they could to shock. Off stage, they were working harder still with George, Angus and Malcolm's older brother, who produced their next album, Let There Be Rock.
Let there be guitar!
Me and Malcolm said, well, we really want a lot of guitars, big guitars.
Released in the summer of 1977, Let There Be Rock blasted onto the US charts. AC/DC were on the verge of becoming an international hard rock phenomenon.
Living easy, living free.
In January of 1979, AC/DC began work on an album called Highway to Hell, a title the record company hated from the start.
They freaked with that title. They didn't want that title.
And I said hogwash, We're calling it Highway to Hell, and that's how it is.
When Highway to Hell hit the world's record stores in the summer of 1979, its title spawned rumors that the wild boys of AC/DC were devil worshippers. But to AC/DC, Highway to Hell was a tribute to the hard life of a touring rock and roll band.
If you'd have been on the road with us for those years up to that point, you would have known exactly what we were talking about.
After 6 years on the road and in the studio, AC/DC's grit and determination was finally paying off. Bon Scott was enjoying the high times, only that the high times seemed to go on and on.
We go back to the hotel, we say, well, Bon, it's 3 in the morning, we've got to crash, got to go. And you go, oh, just one more drink. And we'd wake up in the morning, Bon, wake up, oh. Then you get up back onto his drink. Oh, where were we?
Where They Were was on the rise. Highway to Hell raced up the charts but got a mixed response from the critics as the decade came to an end. AC/DC look forward to further rock and roll glory. But the new decade was doomed to begin, not with distinction, but with a sudden, shocking death. After 7 years and thousands of gigs, from the pubs of Australia to the stadiums of the world, AC/DC rode Highway to Hell to international success in that summer of '79. As the year drew to a close, the decade ahead promised more gold records and good fortunes.
Are you rich, though? I mean, are you making the bread?
Yep. I just bought Big Ben.
But the band's exhausting workload and equally large appetite for drugs and booze were taking their inevitable toll.
We've been working non-stop since the band started. Just got to have a break occasionally.
Frontman Bon Scott led the partying. No one could stop Bon's wild ways, not even his beloved mother.
Got another empty bottle.
You didn't tell Ron what to do. I never went too far. I just said I didn't like him drinking, but when they get to that stage, they don't listen to you.
In January 1980, under pressure to record a follow-up to Highway to Hell, AC/DC returned to London. Malcolm and Angus invited Bon to the studio, eager to play him the new music for the next album.
They were fantastic. You know, he's looking after himself. And yeah, his teeth were all fixed.
Got myself a one-way ticket.
And we said, you know, we're just about ready for you, Bon. You know, so maybe next week sometime, you know. And of course, it never happened, you know.
Bon would never put lyrics to the music Malcolm and Angus had written. On Tuesday night, February 19th, 1980, Bon Scott went out drinking in London with a friend.
He went out just for a drink, a relaxation, you know, maybe to clear the head, you know, and then look forward to getting into his writing, come up with some ideas, you know. He had it all in front of him.
Bon Scott was only 33, but time and luck were not to be on his side. After a night of heavy drinking, Bon ended the evening alone, passed out in a car parked outside his friend's house. In the morning, he was found dead.
From what I still can gather, he had fallen asleep, you know, in a car and more or less, you know, asphyxiated, you know.
He choked through the night, the position he was sleeping in, you know.
During the night, Bon had apparently vomited in his sleep and choked to death. Angus was the first band member to receive the news.
I had called the guy that was managing us, and he told me, you know, that it was true that he had died, so, you know.
Angus called me. I was just totally stunned. You can't explain a death and how it affects you, you know. Everything just is numb. It's as simple as that.
Wondered, you know, just what do you do?
Scotland Yard said the body of Bon Scott
was discovered last night in a car.
Post-mortem will be carried out later today.
Was the result of some heavy drinking.
Within hours, everyone in the band knew what had happened, and the media were already flashing the news of Bon's death. Malcolm took it upon himself to notify Bon's family in Australia before the press got to them first.
Someone had to tell them, you know, and it better coming from one of the band than from a newspaper.
Over the phone, yeah, got a shock in my life. Because I thought it was him on the end of the phone. Because I just screamed. Yeah.
Most difficult thing I've ever had to do. God knows how they felt. I hope I never have to do anything like that again.
The band pulled together and refused all interviews, while Bon's death was sensationalized in the tabloids.
Especially in Britain, they made it a bit of a joke almost, you know, and we've never forgiven them for that. All we were concerned about, mainly at that time, was Bon's parents. They're really nice people. They don't need this.